What is going on, guys? It is Daniel Wright, and you are here listening to another episode of Paving the Way. And if you were watching this on video, you can see that I have a guest with us today. And he doesn't know that he's on here, apparently. He's looking around for himself. But, guys, we are coming to you from Naples, Florida. We just wrapped up our 2024 winter TCS Inner Circle Retreat. So I've got JJ with us. Everybody knows JJ from Proline. And this is his first official appearance on the podcast.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. God almighty. It's going to be a fun one, as you can tell. But no, it only took 93 episodes to get him on here with me. And we just want to take time to kind of really just recap the retreat. As you guys know, this past Saturday, I did not get an episode out for you guys. I'm really trying to do more about just being present with where I'm at, making sure that the content I'm putting out for you guys is relevant, not just pre-recorded bullshit that has no relevance to it. So we didn't put anything out last Saturday for you, but this one we're getting out here now so you guys can get a little bit of an insight on what we experienced over the weekend, JJ's perspective of it, kind of what's going on and where things are going. So I guess we'll just go ahead and kick it off and just turn it over to you, man. How this is your third retreat?
Third Inner Circle retreat. So we did Pittsburgh, Hollywood, Florida. And unfortunately, the Florida trip this time, we were welcomed with a lot of rough flights in, clouds, rain, wind, no sunshine. So in that aspect, complete failure. On the opposite side, content-wise, growth-wise, it's been amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Southern Florida is not welcoming right now. So we picked a perfectly horrible time to be down here. But hey, we got to, like you said, be here with some friends, some family, friends who become family, and really just take in some great content and have great conversations. So the way it works is the top Contractor School retreats. We have 2 a year. And we do 2 retreats, and then we have 2 meetups. The meetups are more informal, casual, things like that. You haven't been to a meetup yet. But as far as the retreats go, I mean, I guess how would you describe to people like what happens at these retreats?
It's a conversation about growth in ways that it's really hard to explain without showing up here. The outreach and compassion from one contractor to another, from California to Utah, everybody here wants to experience growth. From the second, out of the 3 retreats I've been to, you can't even get out of the lobby before you're shaking hands and having conversations. And it's not necessarily about technical things about what's your sealer usage rate, what kind of rig are you using. It's not even about that. It's, hey, how have you guys been? How is everybody? How's your family? How are you? So it starts with that kind of love and compassion. That's what the TCS group is, and that also bleeds down into Proline.
Yeah,
and so that's many ways in which we like to just look out for the betterment of the society of contractors and at Proline. How do you feel when you show up in the lobby?
Well, I would agree with you. When you show up in the lobby is when it all starts. Everybody gets excited for it, so you kind of already have like the hype and the excitement for it. But once you show up there, like you said, you don't even get out of the lobby like for a while. I think the Callaways were telling us it took them 2.5 hours.
That's right.
To get out of the lobby because they were shaking hands, giving hugs, telling stories, catching up, whatever it is. And it's like, that's just what it is. I mean, it's, if you have family and friends and things like that you get to see a couple times a year, it's very similar to that. And this group has become that for so many people. And it's, yeah, I mean, the welcome at the lobby and then the welcome party that night is just, it's nonstop. It is tiring. It's very mentally and emotionally tiring because you're just pouring so much into your conversations with people. Like, it's not surface level shit of just, oh, how was your year? Or, how many jobs did you complete? Like you said, you're not talking about the silly, like, how to do the things. It's like the really meaningful stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed psychology, neurology, maybe some mixology. So the topics are endless, but it always ends in the vein of growth. And it's really hard to understand that unless you've been. So, but one of the wild things also about it is my wife, Linda, came with us this time. So there's Daniel and his wife, Kelsey, and myself and Linda. But the amount of faces and names, it's sometimes really hard to remember a lot of names and faces.
Mm-hmm.
We all kind of suck at it. But the level of compassion amongst the group of people is so palpable that I definitely remember a higher percentage of names and faces here than I do just in my random everyday life outside of my family and work. So
why do you think that is?
Well, it's literally because of that very thing. It's the shared experience of being contractors and the search for growth that it's just so palpable, and your conversation with that person becomes so intimate that's how and why everybody kind of remembers everybody's names really quickly at definitely a higher rate than anywhere else.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd agree with that, man. It's a lot of relationship building. It's a lot of true, genuine conversations of people actually caring and having concern for each other and trying to genuinely help. So, like you said, when that's the intention behind the conversations, it's easier to remember names. It's easier to remember stories about each other because there's so much care that goes into it.
Well, I'll tell you how much care that showed up this time was definitely different, and there was a flood of babies, young kids everywhere. There was babies in carts, kids getting carried, drug around everywhere, diving off tables. So the family introduction into the TCS group has been something that was really exciting to see, just the invigoration of the youth. Luckily, there was no screaming babies.
Yeah, no
screaming babies. It was all good there.
Everybody was good with that. And that kind of leads to a point of what they kind of talked about this weekend is the future of TCS. Like, where is it going? And granted, a lot of it's preliminary. It's in the very infancy stages, no pun intended. But just being able to really include more of the families, because that's what it is. I mean, obviously, anybody who knows us knows that Kelsey and I, we don't have kids. However, we have friends and family with kids that are like our kids. So we really respect and understand the fact of how important it is to have the right role models in your kids' lives. And that's something that they brought up this weekend, is like how the future of Top Contractor School is going to be even more inclusive to families and kids. Like, so when members of the group are bringing their families along, that there can be some more like kind of coordinated activities for the kids and for the spouses and things like that to just bring it all together. And it all ties back into like what you said is like the reason we can remember so much about each other is because there's so much just care. And I told a couple people this weekend, I said, I love coming to these because I have more what I consider true friends in this group that are spread out all across North America, not even just the country, but up into Canada. I have more true friends there in this group than I do at home. And it's nothing against the people that I know at home. I mean, I have a good handful of friends. If you're watching this or listening to it, if you think, oh, I'm one of Daniel's good friends, you probably are. If you're questioning whether or not you are or not, you probably aren't. So, I mean, that just is what it is, right? But it's you just get around the right group of people. And I think, fortunately to social media and technology and so on and so forth, that like this network has been expanded to us and now is trickling into the families. And that's something that I personally, as a leader, I take very seriously. What kind of impact do we have on the people that work at our company? Because they go home to their families. There's been conversations we've had with folks on our team where they're like, oh yeah, I went home and told so-and-so about this, or so-and-so brought this up and I told them about what we did here or how we handle it. And I'm like, man, this is real. Like, yeah. Like people are taking the stuff that we talk about and we implement every day and going home and actually building lives with it. So it's cool to see, like you said, the amount of kids that are coming around, and apparently a lot of people had some kids recently because I think there was like
Lots
3
of activity.
babies. Yeah,
Lots of activity.
lots of activity. When was the last year? That was a little more than 9 months ago, but no. But no. So that is exciting. There's a lot of first-time parents that are in the group, so that's fun to hear those stories. And there's a lot of veteran parents in the group too. So.
Well, when you talk about that, there's an unfortunate stigma in the world of contractors, which is what TCS is trying to separate from. Stand up, honest, integral people who are going to do high quality work. Unfortunately, the contracting side of America, well, across the globe, there's some shady characters out there. So the fact that kids, wives are here, I'm willing to bring my wife, you're willing to bring your wife, we're not going to bring them around shady characters.
Yep.
Like, so you're not going to bring your kids around a bunch of shady characters. What we try to do at Proline, we're not trying to hang around shady characters there either. So we're just trying to reinforce great quality humanity across the board. So that's just the way it's going.
So as somebody who, you're not an owner of the company, I think there's times where you take just as much ownership and pride in our company as I do, which I obviously admire and respect and appreciate. But as somebody who's not the person that is 100% in charge of calling all the shots and carrying all of that weight of the ownership, how do you interact with a lot of the other folks here? Because a lot of the people are owners of their companies. We also have a lot of people who are, vice president of sales or things like that. So it is the more, the leaders of companies that come here, but it is a lot of owners. So how does somebody like yourself, who is very involved in the business, has a lot of responsibility, takes a lot of pride in it, do you ever find that it's easy, it's hard? Like, how do you feel it is interacting with the group here on different levels of responsibilities and roles?
Well, it's easy in this way. If you care about growth, and not just the numbers, not just systems or processes, but if you care about the growth of the entire company, of how you go home, how I go home, how the crew guys go home, how the administration go home, they go home to people. If you care about that, about the people in your company like that, for me to come here, it's super easy because I want to know more. The more that I know, the more that I can bring back home with us, the better quality execution that we're going to have as a company back in North Carolina. So for me to come and, yes, I'm the operations manager, but am I talking to salespeople? Yes. Hey, how long does it take you guys to do this? When you get done that, how does it go to scheduling? When you get to scheduling, how are you working your crews up to deploy? How do you make sure that they're carrying the right, products and equipment to the job sites? So caring about a high quality of execution is also caring about the people, because those things have to meet up and equal growth. So in that aspect, it's easy. Now, there's a lot of talking. If you're just an uncomfortable public speaker, you just got to get over it, talk to people, and get the good scoop and move on with life.
Yep. And that is something that I have really come to enjoy seeing within the group. Is the more of these events that we do, the more opportunities they give for members and attendees and things like that to have an opportunity to speak, right? To get up in front of some people and not necessarily like give a presentation or a speech or any of that crap, but like just have the opportunity to speak. Because all of us, you brought it up recently, all of us talk to ourselves.
Oh, man.
Right? Yeah, so now we're going to get into the fun shit, right? So all of us talk to ourselves. We all have conversations with ourselves.
Yes.
Some of them definitely should be kept to ourselves.
Absolutely.
But there's a lot of stuff that we talk to ourselves about or think about that if we just put it out there, more people would be able to help. More people would be able to understand. More people would be able to relate. And that's something that, like you said, you just kind of get over it and put it out there. So because like I said, you and I have talked about this, about the talking to yourself and kind of getting over some of those things. How does that relate to this community, this group of people that we spend time with?
Throughout from the time you wake up till the time you go back to bed, you drive somewhere, you go for your workout, you're talking to yourself in your head, saying things to yourself in your head. Well, I have to do this, I have to do that. or, well, when I meet up with Daniel later, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to say this. And then that moment comes and you take no action. So you're not holding yourself accountable to the one person that you're the closest to, yourself. You're not answering and talking and delivering and holding yourself accountable for the things that you tell yourself. I've recently, as you're referencing, I've went down this path where I have, not in a psychological crazy way, but I have to talk to myself so that I execute these ideas, these tasks, these conversations, and make them real. Mm-hmm. And to encourage others around you to do that has been very, very powerful. Not only honestly with my family at home, but at work. I've many times said, if you're not speaking out about the thoughts in your head, nobody can hear you. So I don't know how you feel. I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know that we're looking at the same thing, but you're thinking something else because you haven't said a single word about it. So this glass that might be red, he might think it's blue. This glass that looks brown, he's like, well, there's a lime in there. So, yeah, but if we don't talk and come to an agreement about the messages and the thoughts and the voices in our head, you have to engage those voices. I know it sounds crazy, but you have to engage that voice. You have to kind of talk back to yourself, but then you got to let, especially in a close-knit company like ours, you have to communicate those thoughts and make sure that now those two thought processes meet, they get aligned, more palpable, tangible stuff gets done when that communication meets up. That's why it's important that you listen and talk to yourself and then say those words out loud.
Yep. And so we could go down a lot of different avenues with that, but one specific thing came to mind when you were talking about that. When you talk to yourself and you acknowledge it and you pay attention to the things that you think and turn them into actionable, executable items. We obviously had the fortunate guest, or had the fortunate pleasure to have the guest of Ed Milet get to come have a chat with us. And it was a neat setting. It was more like a fireside chat sort of thing as opposed to like a speech. He wasn't like, the dude loves to burn down the stage. Like he will just get a crowd going. He's used to speaking in front of thousands and things like that. But he was in an intimate setting with a room of, 75 or 80 people. And it was a conversation. But one of the things that he talks about, I'm probably going to butcher the actual psychology behind this. But one of the things he talked about was the reticular activating system, the RAS. And I think that's in alignment with your point about that you talk to yourself a lot, but you think about a lot of things. You have to kind of talk to yourself and you have to put it out there. And with the RAS, with the reticular activating system, he talks about, the example is if you buy a gray Honda Civic, all of a sudden you just notice all the gray Honda Civics around. You start to see more of it. It's almost like it attracts you. You're attracted to them. And I think that's something that more of us need to really tap into, is that the more that we actually focus on some things, the more that we, whether it's our personal relationships, as far as being, a husband or a wife, a father, a mother, a business leader, whatever it may be, the more that we really tap into those things that we think about and we put them out there into the world, into the universe, into our networks, our relationships, the more that we're going to be aware of them. And the more that we're aware of those things, the more that we have the opportunity to capitalize on when they become presented to ourselves. Obviously, the gray Honda Civic is just an example of when you have something, like when you get something or when you think about something, it becomes just more readily available. But how many times has there been things that you maybe kind of think about in passing and you just kind of let it go by the wayside, as opposed to putting it out there, actually discussing it with somebody?
I'm going to tie, as you're speaking about the RAS, and speaking about that, Ed made a lot of references to Peyton Manning, about quarterbacks, about pre-snap reads and such. So I'm going to connect for the first time ever, for the first time in history of Paving the Way. We're going to connect some ideas from a high-level speaker to just us on this couch.
What couch is this?
This is the couch at the Naples Grand Beach Resort.
Not the casting couch?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, just making sure.
No, sir. That might have been last night, but now we're here. So to connect that to the thoughts in your head, you're taking an optical, what Ed's talking about is more of an optical, and then your brain's processing. You're taking an optical stimulus, and then you're mentally, there's a neurological explosion of things. So you're processing that, and then you're going to take an action. Well, when you're having that explosion, guess what? You're also talking to yourself. So think about this. In the contracting world, doesn't matter the scope of what your contracting firm does. You're talking to, okay, me as the operations manager, I'm talking to the foreman, the crew leader, the project lead, but the crew members are around. So I'm engaging. If you're the crew lead, and I'm engaging you, and the other guys are in the background, and I know that they can hear because they're just within an earshot. So you and I are engaging. I can tell you're paying attention to me. Am I seeing head drops behind you? Are they disengaged? So if I can see that they become disengaged while I'm delivering my thoughts and you're delivering your thoughts back to me, we're having that active voices talking, we're aligning our thoughts. But now in the background, I can see that maybe some of the guys are a little distracted, or maybe they're locked into what I'm saying. Match that up with the performance. This is a brand new thought that I'm just throwing out. Match that up now with the performance that you begin to see, especially when you're managing a number of people specifically carrying out a scope of work. See what the engagement is, then executional. What are they doing? Are they delivering a high quality result? Did they maybe overhear you, or were they talking to themselves in their head back there? And that's why I saw them maybe looking down, moping around a little bit. Were they talking to themselves, being distracted? I need to now connect both of those worlds and monitor the entire area in a pre-snap kind of read, and who's receiving what. Who can I see is talking themselves in their head? Did they get the message? Especially if we're carrying out a scope of work and there's maybe a slight change, or maybe something didn't quite add up and we have now a problem that has to be solved. Did that guy get that message the right way? Yep. So one of the things that Ed also brought up, which comes from, it's in a lot of other leadership tactics, is the read back.
Yep.
So would you hit on that real quick, and then we can discuss?
Yeah. So it was a lot of talk about relationships and leadership and things like that. And one of the things that he brought up when it came to, I don't recall the exact context of why it got brought up, but more or less making sure someone feels valued and feels listened to and heard. Because in today's day and age, with as fast paced as things are, and we're just on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, we just move. Taking the time to actually listen to somebody and comprehend what they're saying, not just hear them, but really listen to them. One of the things that he brought up was one of the best ways to do that, to actively listen, is to be able to literally repeat back what they said to you, not in a condescending way, like you're trying to like mimic or imitate them, but to just basically give a summary back of what they said. But then the caveat to that is not just say, okay, so you said blah, 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 and keep moving on. It's, okay, so you said X, Y, Z. Did I understand that correctly? If not, like, please correct me now. So it's giving them that opportunity, the person who is speaking to you, to confirm that you understood them correctly. And man, that is something that, I mean, I know in our world, like, we miss that a lot.
Yeah,
well, because we're just going 100 miles an hour. It's, okay, I need you to go call this person. All right, cool, got it. Well, all of a sudden, what you're calling them about is not what I needed you to call them about, or whatever it may be, right? So having that read back is huge in making sure people feel heard, valued, appreciated, and things like that.
Yeah, I know you and I have screwed that up.
Oh yeah,
I've screwed it up with the guys. Everybody out there, you've done the same thing and screwed it up too.
Yep.
But it's now. So when I'm seeing, Fred in the background and he's moping around, so you and I engage. I know you and I are good. We've discussed, hey, this is the change order. Hey, can you tell me real quick what the change order was? And then he confirms it back to me. So then how do I take action on both of these kind of ideas and smash them into a way that I can be a better leader? I walk over to that guy who was distracted. Fred, hey man, you good? Well, maybe. Hey, did you hear anything that we were talking about? Because there's a change order like, we got to get this right. High quality of execution, man. Can you just real quick, what did you hear? And it could be something that simple. You have to be careful not to overstep and try to get into the guy's ego, because it's just going to come flying right back at you. You got to avoid that. And have I screwed that up? Oh my, yes. But so approaching those kind of small scenarios like that, now that we have this kind of new stimulus for leadership to connect the voices in your head to that optical thing that you can receive, that Ed was talking about, starts thinking about ways to smash that together and take in that big picture, make sure all the scope's getting carried out by all the operators out there. And if you happen to see one guy who seems locked on, like, hey, bro, we're going to kill this, right? What's up? What exactly were you doing again? What part of this are you carrying out? Like, approaching those in simple kind of ways like that can really be a game changer if you do have communication problems, or even if you're working on communicating better as a crew or as a family. This could really work well at home. Try these little implementations out. And as a matter of fact, comment, like, and subscribe. Give us some feedback. Tell us about some stuff you've screwed up, and respond with ways that you could have done it better.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of that out there. So, like you said, a lot of us have done it and not done it. And yeah, it's there was just so much value, I think, provided to everybody in all different levels, right? So that was just obviously kind of one recapped scenario of value that we received. But you mentioned obviously we came here with Kelsey, which we'll be doing another episode with her, so you guys will get to see her again and hear her feedback on this here soon. But you got to bring Linda to this one, and we've done, like you said, this is the third trip that you've come on to a retreat. I don't know if we've done any other industry trips outside of these retreats together, but nonetheless, it's the first one that you brought her to. It's the first one that really anybody from the company has brought a family member to. Why did you want to do that?
Well, in much of the same thing we were just talking about, to be honest, to connect my spouse, who I spend a lot of time away from home. As a contractor, you're going to spend a lot of time away from home. So to connect my wife to people like, oh, hey, honey, I'm flying to Florida, hanging out on the beach for a couple of days. Like, to her, what's her picture in her head? All the stuff we were just talking about. What's the picture she has in her head? Oh, I'm going to Hollywood, Florida. I'm going to Naples, Florida. Okay, I know my wife is going to think, oh, beach, suntan lotion, pina coladas. He's going to be, toes up in the sand, swimming in the surf. But what she doesn't realize is when we get here, from the moment you're in the lobby, we're engaged in conversations about growth. Then we actually begin the classes the next day. And it's constant pushing through classes, information to try to squeeze the most out of the weekend. So she got to watch me go through the process, realize, for all the spouses out there, that I'm not screwing off on the beach, hitting a beach ball down or chasing birds around in the sand. So she gets to see that I'm actually engaging and trying to better myself, trying to learn. But she also gets to put faces and names together for all. When I come home and I'm like, well, this one done this guy, I know this guy in Utah, we got this crew in California, Brian and them boys out there in California, Ryan and them boys up in Michigan. So she now gets to put faces with these people. Oh, wait, like, hey, he's talking about taking his girls to a volleyball tournament, real people doing real things, so that she can get rid of any kind of noise in her head that I'm here for growth. And that's what the purpose of these trips are. So now she can be way more supportive. So I really, really appreciate the fact that we were able to carry this out and bring her along, because now I know her perspective is absolutely going to be changed. And if I can go home and have her better support me, I can better support my family. I can better support what we're trying to accomplish at Proline, which will all feed back uphill to TCS, and then it comes back down again. So it's just a constant revolving door of trying to communicate. How do we grow? How do we get better? How are we better husbands, operations managers, dads? So it's a really neat circle that I'm really glad I was able to have her be a part of.
Yeah, that's a fantastic answer. So I could dig and try and ask a lot more questions about that. But nonetheless, I agree with you. It is really great to be able to have family
Hold on, let me
members.
ask you a question.
Okay.
Kelsey came along with you on many of these excursions. No, excursions is a bad word.
No excursions.
Business trips.
Business trip. All business.
But this was Kelsey's first time. And I know you're going to hit on the podcast later, but let's get a little preview of what Daniel's perception of having Kelsey take part in all of the information that was delivered through the Top Contractor School. And there's a certain part that I can't disclose that's part of the inner circle retreat that is a very, very emotional, very open-hearted, very emotional part that where everybody kind of has their chance to speak. So can you describe, or at least maybe give a little bit of a snapshot before Kelsey comes on, of how did you perceive that, not only as the owner of Proline, but as her husband? Like what did you take away from that? How especially when she got a little bit emotional about just being passionate about her growth and the growth of Proline?
Well, like you said, you're only getting a preview. So, because that will be something we talk about with her coming up. But what you're alluding to is, and obviously, like you said, it is kind of like a little niche-y part of the retreat. But basically, there is an opportunity where everybody gets to, kind of share a takeaway of from the retreat and things like that. And to your point about it getting emotional, it's because at the end of the day, we're all looking for growth. Like, we're all here to try and be better. And if you're not in this circle. Like, you're not in my circle, that's for sure. Like, so getting to see her participate in it. I got the first experience of it back a couple weeks ago when we went to a conference for Ignite Construction Summit. And that was the first of like she participated in the meetup, the TCS meetup. That was more of kind of an informal thing, kind of doing the round tables and stuff, which she participated in, and she did great there. That's how she got the total boss name and all that stuff that will never die. So, and I am becoming more and more okay with not being the total boss of Proline. So cool with that. But having her really get to sit in on this, like the more intimate side of this group that we're part of. I mean, honestly, man, it's just special because we put so much into it, right? And so to have her sitting in there, to invest that time, that energy, to just try and learn and just try and be part of it, it's just cool. So it's really cool. Like I said, we'll get into it more with her and let her get to share some of her takeaways from it.
No, not trying to spoil the next Paving the Way with Kelsey. Yeah, not trying to spoil it, but. No. But I just really wanted to get your takeaway from that, because it's always interesting to see any first time attendee to a retreat. There's going to be emotions involved, and I felt it when she had her moment. I really felt it. So it was it was all good. I just preview for the next podcast.
Yeah, we won't go down that road right now, but yes, it was very special getting to have her in there. Very proud of her for, putting herself out there and having conversations and putting in that work. But it's cool because, like you said, she's come with me to these, but she's never sat in them. So she's not quite to the extent where she thinks I'm just hanging out smacking beach balls on the beach at every retreat, because she's here with me. So she knows I'm in a room all day working and things like that. But to have her on the inside of that room and really get to just share it, because I can tell her all day long, right? Just like you can tell Linda all day long what you did for the weekend. But until you actually get to come experience it and come really just see it and feel it and do it, there's just always that little divide. And I think, honestly, a lot of people who travel for business or go to these conferences or expos or retreats, like, their families at home probably all think similar things. Like, well, what the heck are they doing? They're just out there having drinks and cocktails and eating expensive dinners and whatever else. And yeah, we are having drinks, we are having cocktails, we are having nice dinners, but it is all rooted in building relationships with these people around us. And by building these relationships and continuing to solidify these relationships, we all become better people.
Well, let's play a quick little game.
Oh boy.
What was your favorite food of the weekend?
Favorite food of the weekend? Oof.
It could be the entree, the side, the dessert.
The key lime pie dessert
Yeah, that's pretty legit.
Was really good Saturday night.
So let's predict what was Kelsey's. And this is a follow-up for you to carry out on the next podcast. Yeah.
Great. Kelsey's favorite food of the weekend. I would probably say, trying to think of what all she ate. It's probably breakfast of some sort.
Okay, so bacon and eggs. She do bacon and eggs?
Not really bacon so much. She likes waffle. She had a waffle.
Okay, so we have a waffle, and you like the key lime pie. The key lime pie stuff is pretty good. The little tiramisu dessert, that's pretty good. Yeah. Was very, very, very pleased with the barbacoa, guacamole, that big pile of stuff I had. It was creme fraiche or something in there. It was always fantastic. I would say this, that Linda forced food onto my plate. There was some salmon getting thrown on there, and the soup. I've got
the soup, right?
I have no need ever in my life for soup. My wife loves it, so a lot of people were saying it was a spicy soup. So I know undoubtedly that was her favorite. So that's an easy one. So we'll do one more, and I think I already know the answer to this. Responsibly, there was a few cocktails that were enjoyed responsibly. So during some of those, late night conversations, about growth and about, Marvin and I got neurological. Yeah. We went down some, what was your heritage, and 100 years ago, what did your gene line carry out? So it was, but during that moment, it was you, Kelsey, Marvin, his son Eli, and Linda. We were all kind of hanging out, talking. What was the cocktail that you think that Kelsey enjoyed the most?
Oh, the espresso martini.
Espresso. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
I think now Linda's a fan.
Yeah.
There was also a Bloody Mary involved in that situation.
So on this game note here, talk about the favorites. Yep. I'd be curious because you are somebody who does very good at having conversations with people and interacting. What was the one conversation that you had? You don't have to necessarily go into all the details of it because some of them are kind of deep or intimate conversations. But what was one conversation that sticks out the most to you that you had over the weekend?
I felt like I had I had a lot. Oh my goodness, I had a lot of numbers talks with Amy and Reese. But the one that really stuck out to me because somebody was seeking advice, and I really didn't expect that. Because usually I'm the guy asking the questions. I want to know more how I can bring what I can learn, at these retreats, bring it back and implement stuff. But from Integrity Asphalt, one of Kyle's guys, Brandon, said, "Hey man, we need to talk and meet up." And so he was basically asking like, "Hey, how are you guys keeping stuff rolling? How's the crew? How are you keeping stuff together?" And so I didn't really expect anybody to ask me that, because like, why would they ask me that? I mean, just something I wasn't ready for that. However, because we put a lot of effort into that, it was an easy conversation to have. And the long and the short of it was something similar to what we said maybe 15 minutes ago, getting everybody on the same wavelength, communicating together, speaking the same language. So that was information that Brandon was seeking. And I actually felt like I might have said one or two good things. Hopefully we didn't steer Integrity Asphalt off the highway.
Oh boy.
But I was surprised that somebody was that inquisitive because of we have had some success, but sometimes out of that success, man, you had to screw up and fail a couple times. Yep. So we've had all of that, and I think I was really able to deliver especially in the line of get your guys to talk the same language and to pass that information along was something I've never done before. So I was put in that situation, and that I really appreciated that. So thank you, Brandon.
And that's funny that out of all the people who were here, like I said, 75, 80 people plus that were here, Brandon and Kyle, there was a lot of travel issues this week, right? A lot of people had flight issues and delays and cancellations and whatever. They were ones who drove from northern Michigan. I believe it was over 1,500 miles last minute. Literally, their flights got canceled. And Kyle got to basically, he was asked, like, well, why did you do that? Like, why did you just up and drive here? Like it was 20, what was it, 22 hours, 24 hours, 25, something like that,
wild,
20-something hours to drive. And they just drove straight through. They just took turns driving back and forth. And I could tell it meant a lot to him because he said this was the first time he's ever been able to bring someone.
Yeah, yep. Brandon was the first guy from Integrity Asphalt to come along with, yes.
Yeah. And so the fact that conversation is what stuck out to you, right? And like you said, hopefully you steered him in the right way. Hopefully you didn't run him off the tracks, but I don't think you did. But the fact that stuck out to you, what those guys went through to get here, and for that young man to be able to come here and be a part of it, like, that's just wild. Like, out of all the conversations that you had, out of all the people that you could have that conversation with, I don't know. To me, that's like a God thing, right? Because that guy had a problem, a difficulty, something he was trying to overcome, was able to connect with somebody face to face, which, I mean, yeah, we can all call each other. We can have those Zoom calls, FaceTime calls, but there's something different about breaking bread with somebody.
Yeah, face to face, and yes, yeah, sharing that moment, again, getting the thoughts out. He got his thoughts out to me, and we definitely got in alignment there verbally on that. So it was, again, it was wild. Now that you're thinking about it, because I had so many good conversations, but that was the one that I was personally flattered that somebody took, enough interest in what we've tried to accomplish that they're now seeking advice from us. So that was definitely wild.
Yeah, that was cool, man. I had a fantastic time this weekend. We could keep going on and on about conversations we had and whatnot. But if you were to let's wrap this up here. If you are going to take one thing back to the team, back to Proline from this weekend, what's it going to be?
It's now to put this recent thought process of mine about the talking to myself in my head, along with that optical consumption that Ed talked about of looking around the area and getting a read around the area. For me to start putting those two things together is definitely something I'm looking forward to doing, and then passing that along, because if we can pass that on to our subordinate leaders, so from the operations manager level down to, the crew leads, the project managers, even off to the office. So to pass that along, like, hey, watch what people are doing, get a read on that, and communicate all of these thoughts and connect those two things. How can't you grow from that? You have no choice but to grow, because you're going to get more aligned. You put these things together, but you have to have that visual acuity to pick up on the things that are going on around you and then communicate. So I'm really looking forward to trying to pass that vision along and encourage the guys to do the same. And for them, hopefully they can give me some feedback, which I'd be curious, like, hey, when you see me like drifting off into Never Never Land and I look like I'm, just staring at the stars, hey, come over, talk to me, maybe get me re-engaged. If you see that with me, when you're pre-snap from over there, from behind the line stripe or from behind the seal coating rig, or JJ looks like he's struggling, he's staring off, and come talk to me. Let's start that initiative to where if we see somebody drifting off, you pick that visual stimulus up, go help somebody, go say something to them. Don't be overbearing. Get them on board with a little quick, like, hey, bro, what's up? Give them a little shot. So definitely trying to get those two things to kind of match up, because I have been speaking with the guys back home about, hey, tell me what you're thinking, because I can't read your mind.
Yep.
So to connect those two things together is something I'm looking forward to doing. And like you said, there's a lot of other initiatives that Ed talked about, a lot of other, the highlights and so many things that I know you're going to pick up on later shows. Yep. So again, comment, like, and subscribe. Ask Daniel some questions about his thoughts on the Fireside Talk with Ed.
Yeah, oh yeah. If you want to know my thoughts, all you gotta do is ask, because I'm full of them. So,
well, you said we're about near the end, so if you don't mind, let me drop in. The native wildlife has invaded the beach resort. not only was Kelsey almost like her life was in jeopardy, birds came in, jumping around this very room. My wife brought back a hermit crab that was crawling around the room. So if you come down to the Grand Beach Resort,
Naples Grand.
The Naples Grand Beach Resort, just listen, be careful. The native wildlife has a way of making its way in. So you got to be on the lookout. You got to,
inclusive.
Yep, you got to be on the lookout, and you got to take action.
Well, I think we all appreciate that tidbit about being on the lookout for wildlife. So,
That's it.
God almighty. All right, guys, we appreciate you all for tuning in. This is officially the longest episode that we've done here, and we've got more of that to come. So it's a lot of fun having folks like JJ on here. I've had Kelsey on, my brother. And we've got more folks that we're going to be getting on here, whether it's going to be live, bring them in on video, things like that, to just have more of these types of conversations. You know, I can sit here and have the monologues all day long, but that doesn't help bring you guys the most value. And at the end of the day, that's what we were doing this for. I don't need to do this. This isn't something we try to monetize. There's none of that going on. It's actually because we've been asked to put some of these things out there for other people to be part of. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I said, we got one coming that will kind of do something similar to this with Kelsey. I know you guys love having her on here because so far her episodes have probably been the highest viewed and interacted with. So, and I can say it's because of her good looks. So it must be the people watching online, not the people just listening, right? So
we'll maybe put some comments in this episode, questions for Kelsey.
Yep.
And maybe we'll get Kelsey to respond to some of your questions.
How about that? Let's do it. So cool, buddy. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know you got a flight to catch, and we got to get back to the grind.
All right, brother.
Appreciate you, man.